4th, 2018 at 7:30 shall commence. Please stand for our prayer and pledge.
We bow our heads to pray. May each of us thank our Creator for the privilege of living in and serving our community. We ask for wisdom, guidance in any and all decisions. We also ask for the protection of the members of our armed forces, pray for their safe return, and the strength of their loved ones. As we ask in thy name, amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Patrick Riley.
Here.
Vice Chair Steve Rivet.
Here.
Council members Grant Wall.
Here.
Laura Mahoney.
Here.
Dick Korn.
Here.
Danny White.
Here.
Town Administrator Doug Hoyt.
Here.
Town Attorney is excused. I am the Deputy Town Clerk and Treasurer. Also, the Fire Chief Mike Foley is present.
Thank you. Is there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda? I have one. I want to add number 4. It's called mailboat inputs. Denise sent you a list of the inputs and we need to talk about before they go public. Right, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of May 21st, 2018.
I'll move to approve the minutes. I'll second.
Any changes? All right, none heard, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 5-0. All right, I'm going to do a proclamation. Proclamation, Town of Malabar, Florida. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Malabar wishes to recognize and publicly acknowledge the business contributions of Heidi Krieger Well and Pump Services Incorporated over 100 years in operation. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Malabar wishes to express its congratulations and appreciation to Heidi Krieger Well and Pump Services Incorporated for its continuous service to Malabar citizens and surrounding communities in Brevard and Indian River counties. And whereas Heidi Krieger Well and Pump Services Incorporated enjoys one of the earliest occupational license numbers issued by the Town of Malabar. And whereas Heidi Krieger Well and Pump Services Incorporated has assisted the town throughout the years by providing dedicated and professional services to the town with its well drilling and maintenance to the town hall and the fire department locations. Most recently, the newly dedicated ADA restroom at the Sand Hill Trailhead, 1400 Marie Street, Malabar, Florida, which is a showcase in the Brevard County linear trail system recognized throughout the Space Coast area. And now, therefore, I, Patrick T. Riley, Mayor of the Town of Malabar, Florida, on this 4th day of June 2018, do recognize Heidi Krieger Well and Pump Services Incorporated for their many contributions and years of service to the Town of Malabar. Skip, would you come up to the podium?
100 years, how many generations is that?
Here's the origin.
Yeah.
Probably not the next generation with us.
What's that?
Right, next generation.
Yeah. So here's the proclamation. And then we'll do both for this. Congratulations. I appreciate you.
100 years.
Do you want to give a speech?
No.
We're busy.
Thank you, Skip.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, we'll move on to attorney's report. He's excused. We'll move on to our sheriff.
We had a sheriff.
Should be out. Okay, I'll move on to trail and greenways.
They are.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll do a brief, kind of a casual report if it's okay tonight. No presentation tonight or anything. But I did want to mention that recently at the TPO, and I think it's on your website, Ryan Bell was recognized at the county level for work he had done with the Trails Committee. Also, I don't think on the website, but Murray Han was also recognized at the county level. He had led the Brevard BPTAC group for I don't know how many years, a bunch of years. And one thing I learned at the presentation up in Vieira, which I thought should be recognized in this forum, was that he was the first recipient whose spouse had also gotten that same award, which is Susan Han, and I didn't realize that. So not only do we have these star players in our town supporting us, we even have past folks that are related to them that have been star players. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. And the only thing that's really active that you should be aware of that the Trails Committee is really trying to pursue, down south towards Atz Road near Jordan, you have the compound that's the town's compound. There's 3 parcels on that. In 2009 there was a survey. In 2017 there was another survey which identified a missing parcel that had been inadvertently kind of positioned out in the IRL. That is being straightened out. I'm trying to work with the Brevard Property Association, or I'm sorry, Brevard Property Appraiser, and they are looking for a little bit more info, and hopefully we can get that straightened out so we can all look at the map, agree, Brevard's looking at the same map, everybody's on the same page, literally. And then we can kind of move forward with some ideas of doing something for the town to the south of Malabar Road. We've got a great trailhead at north on Marie Street, we've got the North Quarry, but this would basically put one due east in the middle of Jordan that would provide access to basically a launching point for horses or cyclists or hikers down in the Jordan. So I keep bringing that up to remind you that I'm going to be coming back with hopefully some plans once we can pinpoint it on the map. We just wanted to make sure that kept a topic of discussion. So other than that, we're looking forward to a very nice summer with no storms. No trees. Yes, sir.
As I travel around the state, different communities, Malabar is best known for the trails and for the disc golf park. The trails even before the disc golf park existed. But there was some talk recently about a trail town designation. I may have named it wrong. You know what I'm talking about?
You are correct, and the council, to my knowledge, has approved it and submitted. We did a final draft, got feedback, even got some more information and kind of refined it one last lap. To my knowledge, I think it was last week that was submitted to the OGT within the FDED.
So it's still in process.
Not only in process, it's submitted, and we hopefully had met the agenda deadline for June, because the next time is October. So I'd encourage the council to react quickly. You all responded, and I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll be on the map for designation real soon. So hopefully next time we discuss this, it'll be rah-rah, swing the flag type stuff. That's good. So one thing I did learn too is Titusville is among those players. We mentioned Dunedin. Titusville recently was recognized, so we're not the only one. So us getting in the list was not premature by any stretch. You know, they're going to be fighting for final position.
Is Titusville part of the same linear trail program?
Ultimately, they're part of the South Brevard Linear Trail. They're actually tied into the cross-state, cross-Florida trail system that's coming down through Titusville. They've really done some amazing things up there with their bike and pedestrian program. They're actually going out to the island, and the idea is to swing down this way on the coastline, or on the mainland. So though there's kind of two things, there's talk of a big loop out on the island, but they're not ignoring the idea that from an e-commerce perspective, we need support down on the main Indian River Lagoon shoreline. So we're very much on their map. We're well represented because between Murray being on this, I think he's a co-chair right at this point, and but we also have Grandpa Carrier also swinging a similar flag. When we do something, they support, and vice versa. So between that, South Brevard is unbelievably represented. We also have a lot going on, but we also have a lot of potential. But we're almost proportionally recognized for our square footage versus our population, and we're trying to maintain that strong presence in that forum. So yes to your answer, and hopefully soon we'll be officially recognized. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll have to bring up the sheriff for a report.
So we got the crime statistics for the month of April, and just the long and short of it, there were 3 batteries, this specifically for Malabar Road. And I've got a whole list of the amount of calls, the service, but specifically, those were 3 batteries that were reported. There was 1 hit and run, there was 1 narcotics call, there were 2 suicide calls, but I'm not sure, I know that 1 was a threat and one was a middle-aged female that had passed away, and that was actually today. There was only 1 theft. And then we do traffic enforcement, and, if we find vehicles, have, identified abandoned vehicles that were taken care of, and let's see what else. And all types of assisting citizens for calls for, found property, lost property, to collect property, and those type matters. Do you guys have anything specific? Anything else?
Any questions?
Have you done any enforcement of the stop signs on Corey and Weber? That seems to be a continuing problem. People traveling pretty high rate of speed on Corey and Weber, and a lot of blowing through the stop signs.
I haven't, I'm not aware of the motor unit. Usually they will address those specific locations, and then they will send the motor units down there to sit there and be able to enforce the stop sign.
I live on one,
Okay.
and I will tell you that it's a racetrack. We've added traffic control devices here and there for a number of reasons. I have talked to Sheriff Ivey personally, and will probably again, because we're not getting any enforcement on Weber Road.
Correct. Well,
And that's got to change. It's got to change tomorrow.
I see when there is enforcement, and there's people out there, there's the motor
Not on
units out
Weber Road,
there.
there's not.
I have seen them out there.
I live there. I know they're not.
Okay.
All right, point well taken.
They're not there 24 hours a day, but
They're
if
not there 1 hour a day.
well,
Anything.
if the town wants to hire them and specifically
We are
for
hiring
us,
them. We have specifically hired with the MSTU program, they have 36 hours of deputies on duty in Malabar enforcing the laws. And the speed limits on those 2 roads, Corey, Weber, any other road in town, are our laws that they should be enforcing. Now, if I need to talk to the sheriff in the morning, I'll be glad to.
oh, okay. I mean,
I mean,
we
he's
are
supporting
here.
my reelection.
We are here. We
Thank
are
you.
working.
If I call him, he'll recognize.
This is your Malabar deputy right here.
Right.
And so anyway, here's a card from Billy.
Oh, thank you.
This is the girl you need to talk to. I gave city manager my business card. Email me with your concerns about, and we'll make sure. In fact, that's where Jen's gonna go back to here. She's gonna be on
Yes.
that road doing
But you
enforcement.
could also email on the sheriff's website and request that the
I'll talk to
motor
him
units
personally.
do that. That's perfectly fine.
I mean, it's got to be done. That's why we've agreed with the MSTU. It's going to be up to a vote of the citizens again this fall. And if you're not doing the job, it's going to get voted down.
Good. Email your concerns, and once the email's generated, it gets more attention than stopping and stuff. Well,
It's not going to.
I'll make sure.
I'll do it personally with the sheriff.
then what they'll do is, once you do that, the sheriff will email down to the motor unit, will email down to the night shift, day shift supervisors, so we'll take care of it.
Yes.
I don't want you to leave on a bad note. I did have my neighbor across the street call me off when we had dump trucks cruising a little bit too fast
Which street is
down Axe Road.
And that's,
And y'all actually came out and pulled one of them over. He sent me a picture, I've got it on my phone, so just want to say thank you. Okay, all right, they did slow down after that.
okay.
All right.
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay.
You want to leave that?
Do you want the crimes?
Yeah,
The
you give it to
stats, the
me.
number of calls? Okay.
So you have my email address on that card, email with any concerns, and we'll take care of it. You're still the safest town around, just like.
We appreciate it.
All right, Parks and Rec Board. P and Z, not here. Move on to staff reports. Doug,
Nothing this evening.
move on to fire chief.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As y'all know, the new engine's in. The truck is in. We're about 2 weeks out from getting it online, getting everything ready. already, putting out all the old equipment from the other two pieces of equipment we're getting rid of, which is the ladder truck and the other engine. So we also are working to deal with Palm for our Type 6 brush truck. We're getting $11,000 plus 2 Chevy Trailblazers for that exchange. So one can go to the town, so y'all can use it going back and forth to meetings, and I'll be getting the other one. Where else are we at? Engine 299 will be leaving, that's the Hush and the ladder truck. For the calls for the month, from 5/4 to 5/10, we ran 11 calls, 6 EMS calls, 1 public service, 1 brush fire, 1 public assist, and unauthorized burns. From 5/11 to 5/17, 5 EMS calls, 1 public service call, 1 dispatch canceled, 1 false alarm. And the ending of the month, we ran 2 more EMS calls, 1 motor vehicle accident with injury, a total of 23 calls. We are up to 191 calls so far this year. So we're pretty much on track for where we were last year. Any questions? Yes, sir.
When is the rep supposed to show up and give you the walkthrough on the new fire engine?
The rep, what we're doing is, he will probably be here in another week or so, and he'll come in with a certified driver trainer, and all the engineers and the volunteers that will be driving that truck will be trained by 10/8, and no one will drive that unless the certified guy from 10/8 certifies them.
And I'll take it you'll give a little notice before he shows up.
Yes, I guess. Not
And
like
you'll
this last
email
one. Everybody will be
so we can-
emailed when they're there.
I'd
We're
like to
also
see
going to
that,
do
yeah.
what we call a wet down.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a tradition which you do with fire trucks before the truck goes in service. You all will get a note on that message when time where also we'll do the cake ceremony and the news will come out and we'll be recognize the truck. So everybody knows that Malabar got a beautiful truck. So, any other questions, sir? Yes, sir.
What's the truck new number?
It's going to be 99. That will be 99 and the 99 now will be 299. What we're going to do, what I will do with 299, it will be used 1 weekend a month. So the truck will stay in the rotation.
Right.
It will not sit in the back and rust out. So that truck will stay online 1 weekend a month until we figure out what we're going to do with that truck hopefully in like 10 years.
Will you also use it as a backup?
It will be a backup. It will be a backup fire truck.
You want to use the tank itself when the other truck?
We have a tanker. If engine 99, the new truck is out on the call, we have another engine to supply the tank. So we have 2 engines that will be supplying the town at all times. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Clerk, have anything?
Just a reminder that we have budget workshop next Monday.
Move on to public comments. I have one card from Phil Moore. Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Phil Moore, and my address is 3700 2nd Avenue. I live in Grant, Valcaria. I'm here this evening just to introduce myself. I'm a candidate running for state representative, and I've just been going to different councils and just telling everybody a little bit about myself running for office. So I just share a few minutes if I can with you, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 20-year resident of Brevard County, native Floridian. I know Malabar very well. Although I recently moved to Grant Valcaria, I've lived all over Brevard County. I have been very active in the bicycling community. I've actually been a part of the BPTAC, and I sat on parts of that committee for over 10 years, and with the Space Coast TPO. I've run the trails in Malabar hundreds and hundreds of times and biked them all the time, and I enjoy them tremendously, and I'm glad they're there. In fact, I was just on Murray Street Trailhead a few weeks ago running. But I'm running for state rep because I want to try to work on a couple of things. I want to work on the environment, I want to work on our infrastructure, and I want to work on our economy here in the south part of the county. So obviously with the environment, I'm environmentally conscious with eels and everything that we have here with in your town of Malabar, but also with our lagoon. I'm an avid kayaker, used to be a big triathlete, used to swim in the river, I don't anymore. Although there was just a triathlon this past weekend in Melbourne Beach, the Pineapple Man, which I used to help put on and promote and people were swimming in the river. And I can say it looked a little bit better because people come out of that swim and they usually have like what looks like soot on their lips and their face from dusting up the muck and everything, but it actually wasn't on their face this time around. So there might be a little sign of improvement. Also, from reports, I've helped put out some oyster beds and some spats, and they've actually shown some improvement. They've actually didn't die, and they've actually shown some propagation. So that was the latest report from the lagoon. And I'm going to continue working on the lagoon project as best I can from Tallahassee, looking to get some matching funds is one of the things that we need to try to do as well. In terms of infrastructure, Palm Bay is a big part of my district, and I go to a lot of the Palm Bay City Council meetings because they're pretty exciting. But also I go because I know infrastructure is a big need for them, and trying to work with our infrastructure here, it would be to make sure that we have sewage systems in places that they're septic. We're trying to make sure that they're converting over into the newer septic systems, and so I've been working to try to see what we can do in terms of continuing funding sources that we have from the matching half cent tax, what we can get in Tallahassee to help that out as well. And of course, economy, we need to try to work on. We have really good manufacturing structure here for our economy, and we're working on that with the schools as well. So we need to try to improve upon that and get a good flow from people to be able to go from school to a good manufacturing job and fill in those jobs that they need here in our district specifically. So I'll be working on that as well. And again, just trying to introduce myself, I will say one of the big issues that I get, that I'm sure you'll be asking, so I'll address it right away, is home rule. And that's the big thing that I go in and I talk about to all the local city councils. And I am a proponent of home rule. I believe that as a state rep, I would listen to the constituents and what they have to say, but a big portion of it is going to be what my local city leaders have to say and what they're looking for. And so if it's funding for projects, they're going to ask me. I'm very happy to hear from that, and then I go to Tallahassee and try to fight for those dollars. Yes, question?
You brought up home rule, I was going to bring it up. Are you campaigning for the same seat that Randy Fine is now holding?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
I'm not even asking you which party you're with, but you can volunteer that if you want later.
Yeah, I do, actually. You have to know because it's a partisan race. I'm running as a Democrat, so.
But he has followed the lead of Speaker Corcoran, who was going to run for governor, who's now supporting Adam Putnam, and I've been in conversation with Putnam, I can't get an answer out of him. Is Putnam going to take Corcoran's anti-home rule stance? I'll campaign against him all day long. But the point is, I've been active in the space coast, Brevard County League of Cities, the State League of Cities, and it's an important subject to anybody that's involved in municipal governments.
Absolutely.
I went up to Tallahassee the week after the Parkland thing, so it was a long time to be in the Capitol building, but because it was busy. For the shirt, where's Malabar? It's that time you're trying to tell us how we can control our businesses. You don't know where it is? No, tell me. Not a person I spoke to ever heard of Malabar, and yet they're telling us how to do our business. If you plan to be pro-home rule in a very aggressive way,
Absolutely.
as a registered Republican, I'll still support you.
And I'll say this, part of home rule, I believe, and part of a good statesman is being able to talk to the local leaders. Not going and saying something out in public. If I have an issue, I don't care what party line you have, I'll come and address that with you personally, and we can work out the differences. We might agree to disagree, but at least we'll come together and sit down and privately and we'll talk about our differences. Yes, sir.
Some of the, we, like Grand Valley area, are a septic tank community. And there's a lot of stuff going around and worry for us of what's going to have to happen with our septic tanks. And one thing I would like somebody to explain with me, why is it that I can take my drinking water 75 feet away from my well, from my septic tank? However, I'm damaging the Indian River with that same septic tank. Can you explain why it's good enough to drink, but it's not good enough to put in the Indian River?
Can I add something to
Yes.
that? Because I'm totally in agreement on the septic tank issue, because the city water polluted the Indian River through the last hurricanes. And our town has really clean, and I'm concerned that our half-cent sales tax is going to hurt our citizens of having to update their septic when we're taking really good care of our septic systems.
So the way I understand it is septic is only one portion of what is the major plan to help fix the Indian River Lagoon. The muck is the major reason that we have a dying lagoon. It's creating most of the phosphorus and nitrogen that is causing the problems in the lagoon. So the first and foremost project is to get as much muck out of the river as we can. One of the tertiary ways that we see that more nitrogen is being introduced is through our septic systems. The one other big way is rainwater and runoff, which of course we've seen this past hurricane season. Everything flooded, everything went into the lagoon. So we need to try to see how we can combat runoff systems, whether that be putting in a new a septic system, a sewer system in Melbourne Beach is one of the things they're looking at. Palm Bay is looking at it as well. But those are projects, along with improving, if it can be done, a sewer system or a septic system. So one of the things that they were talking about, and I can get more educated on this, but when a house is sold, they can then look at what the septic system is in that home and if it needs to be improved upon that. I didn't hear any plans to say we're going to go ahead and impose that people need to start improving on their septic systems now, and putting a burden on homeowners who have had this in place for years.
But you didn't address the health risks to us having my well 75 feet from my septic tank.
So your septic tank is going to drain lower than your well would be, and it would drain in the direction of the river, where your well is going to be pulled from the aquifer.
So if my septic tank, I live on the old Florida Sand Bridge, my septic tank is by my house above my well, which is before the river, and that water's safe to drink, you're telling me.
How deep is your well?
Well,
60 feet.
what if it was a shallow one? But I mean, what I'm asking is the rule is 75 feet, the water's safe to drink.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that the water that's polluting the river is not, it'll pollute the river, but it's still safe for me to drink. And I'm trying to get a handle around how we can have that dichotomy of the two.
I can tell you.
Within a quarter mile of the river, you're polluting it, but within 75 feet, it's not hurting your drinking water.
And I can see it is a conflict. Okay. I actually went to the commissioners' meeting about this moratorium, okay? And basically what they said is they just declared a 5-month moratorium on installation of new conventional septic systems, okay? If you are building a home
so many feet of
within 50 meters of the Indian River Lagoon, or, and this is the dangerous part of it, is tributaries. Okay, so what defines a tributary is kind of unspecified. Okay, all right. But the point is that if you're building a home right now, if you already have one under contract and everything, well, you're not affected at all. If you want to upgrade to an aerobic treatment system, which is, we came from Texas, and on a lake in Texas, you're required to have that. Okay, I mean, that's the standard. All right.
I'm still trying to find out, is my water safe to drink?
I think it's
Hold on, you're not gonna answer that.
So basically,
You can always do a water quality testing too.
yeah. And basically, all the moratorium is because they only had about 3 distances that were measured, okay, for this nitrogen plume, as they call it. And first was 50 meters, and then the next one was like 200 meters. And they want to check a little bit more closely, 50, 60, 70, like that, to determine what are we actually looking at, okay? Now, the nitrogen content to you and I might not necessarily be toxic, but to the Indian River Lagoon it is, because it is a nutrient for algae and everything that kills our waterway.
And you're looking at a cumulative effect too,
Yes.
not just your own
All
home.
right, we're gonna move on.
Oh, okay.
Doug's next.
I'm sorry.
Yes, yes, sir.
Would you leave some contact information?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
I have cards.
A few years ago, if we don't learn from history, we're gonna repeat it. We're gonna repeat the same mistakes. A few years ago, all this talk about septic tanks took a backdoor to the fact that the nitrogen runoff, particularly during the rainy season, is a result of fertilizers on yards.
Yes.
And there was a moratorium put on where the stores that sell fertilizers cannot sell certain fertilizers during the rainy season. It cannot be applied to your yard if you happen to have some out in the garage. And that was the source of most of the nitrogen pollution in the river, not the septic tanks. You're not getting that much
Right.
nitrogen pollution or any other kind of pollution from the septic tanks. If it goes 75 feet and his well's okay, then the 164 feet that they're saying you gotta stay away from is a whole lot farther. Now, Danny mentioned Texas. Some people here remember when Tom and Lauren Shusky lived here, they moved from here to Texas, built a house, and their house had to have a septic tank, but it was a 2-chamber septic tank that treated the water in such a way, and Roger, you're looking like you know what I'm talking about, where I'm going with this, that he could water his lawn with it safely. Have his animals and his children playing on the yard while it was water. That septic tank cleaned the water that well before it ever left them. And yet nothing has been said about that type of program here in Florida. I mean, we're not approaching this with any kind of intelligence at all.
I believe the county is looking at those tertiary, what are called tertiary tanks.
That's what I was talking about,
Yes.
and I don't want to go any further because Pat said we need to kill this. But the fact is you can install that type of system right now. You can. It is not covered by the moratorium.
Anybody around here knows how to install that kind?
Yes, yes.
There's a whole bunch
Any
of
other questions?
I'll conclude the environment topic by saying that I have been talking with Virginia Barker and those programs, CCL, and we're in good communication, and I'm keeping up to date with what their projects they are doing.
Go ahead, I got it.
Real quick,
Yes.
you talked about demucking.
Mhm.
There's plans to have a muck reservoir
Yes,
in Grand
yes,
Park area. What
yes.
is your opinion of that?
Yes, that was, I went to that town council meeting, it was a big meeting. We don't usually get a stir in Grand Gulf area, but projects like that. So it's a two-part project, really. And this is what it breaks down to. The river is a navigation way. And there are set plans to make sure that the river stays with a certain depth so that boats can travel. They allotted certain plots of land throughout the length of our merit, everything, right?
Yeah.
That allows you to make sure that you dredge so that you maintain that depth. And that is one of the projects that was done here in my town of Grand Gulf area. Secondarily, what you can do with these dredge areas that they've designated is if there is a project that can be done and utilizing that land in between the time they're doing their dredge projects, it's a great utilization of the land because it's just sitting there waiting for the dredge project to happen. So there is talk from the county, nothing's set in stone, of using that land, that area, to place the muck when they're looking at demucking them.
South of Alcaria, north of Grant, in the middle there.
Right.
We used to have such an area here up where Cox's was.
Yeah, still do.
It's still there. And I don't think they've added any dredge to that in several years.
The dredge, from what I understand, it's a 20, I'm gonna get the number wrong, either 20 or 50-year project. So they can keep on, making sure that the waterway is clear. It's just like maintaining your roads, maintaining the waterway. And so that might not be touched. Once they excavate the land and get it set for a dredge project, it might not be touched for 10 years. And then they might see that when they do their looking in sonar and everything, that they need to start dredging.
Now, for those of us adjacent to that reservoir of mercury, lead, whatever else.
That's
is
a
in
question
there,
that was brought up at the meeting. So there are no other toxins that are of any high levels beyond nitrogen and phosphorus. That's what muck is made up of, nitrogen and phosphorus. So when they remove muck, and if they use this DMMA area for muck removal, and they place it there, you're getting nothing but high concentrations of phosphorus and nitrogen. And then that actually, the water goes away and then it dries up and then they remove it. And they actually they'll move it away and turn it into fertilizer or something else because it's just nitrogen and phosphorus. It's not high levels of mercury and other contaminants or toxic materials. That was one of the questions, what is actually in muck and what could possibly be in Grand Bulk area?
All right, thank you for your time.
Yeah, sure, thank you. And if you have any other questions, I'll give you guys my
All right,
contact
Thank
information.
you.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move down to resolutions. Approve updates to investment policy resolution 05-2018. I'll read by title only. A resolution of the town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, amending the investment policy adopted in 2008 to provide for the addition of registered investment advisors, providing for formatting updates, providing for the conflict, and providing for an effective date. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. I second.
I'm going to have staff give Matt give a reason for this. We get into discussion.
All right, so basically we're going into our budget season, and so kind of looking at our policies, our revenues, and one of the things I've been wanting to update is our investment policy. It hasn't been done since 2008, and potentially look at investment advisors as another option for us to try and increase our revenues. In order to do that, we need to have it in the policy, and then I found, of course, a couple other updates.
Is that it? That's any grant?
I have sorry, go ahead. I lost it. I had a pretty good conversation last week with the town clerk treasurer and with Matt, who is doing most of the treasurer work in the town and most of the investment work and so forth. And in talking with them, I agree that it's good to have somebody who's a professional in the investment field to advise what we should do to best get a return on the money that the town has available for investment. But what I feel strongly about is that they ought to be advisors, not decision makers. The decision needs to remain with the town council and its staff.
I got a man. This investment portfolio, there's a lot of rules on it from the state, right? How much latitude would an advisor have to work with under those guidelines? It's not like I want to get an investment counselor because I can do anything I want to do to lose my money. But the town is much more controlled, and that was the only thing I came up with after we talked.
Sure. So the state gives us basically two options. One, we don't have an investment policy, and we're very restricted in what we can use our cash to invest in. The other option is to build an investment policy and outline specifically the things that we can invest in. And so that's what we have done. With that said, we pretty much follow what the state allows us to. And so all those things are outlined in the actual policy itself as to what myself or an investment advisor or any investment officer for the town can actually invest in.
For what? I'm sorry. Yeah, I just had a couple of comments. Yeah, I think the end goal of this is to give us some flexibility and enable us to get a little bit better return on the money that we have is good. Obviously, we want to be very careful of our, risk reward, allocation. We can't participate in anything that's really speculative. We got to be more careful with our taxpayers' money than even with our own. I think there's a lot of common sense stuff in here that I think this is stuff we're mostly already doing, with the exception of the formal training. But codifying it, putting it down so everybody can reference it, makes sense. And I believe we should have a little bit more flexibility so that we can get, some prudent make some prudent decisions to give us a little bit more return without really assuming a whole lot of risk.
From what I read, we could only invest in things that are extremely low risk by the state mandate, correct? Do they actually provide that list, or is it just a grade?
Our list is outlined in the state statute, but we are electing to stick with that list. Maybe it's kind of a recommendation from the state.
I want to emphasize that if you go with this, it's an advisor, not a doer. The action of what to do with the money remains with the town.
Correct. I like that.
Right.
Just a quick comment, if we continue to leave our money in the bank, getting the approximately 1%, we're losing about 2% a year. If we have an investment policy, whether we choose to follow it or not, it gives the town the latitude to look at other options, and if nothing else, at least keep up with inflation. Ideally, you want to beat the bank, you want to beat the stock market, and you want to keep ahead of inflation. The policy we have now does not allow us to do that. It guarantees that we lose money. So this is just opening a door. It's not taking any responsibility or any latitude away from council. Actually, it's giving you better options.
When I first saw the resolution, it was like a heartbeat, like, oh my gosh, invest. But when I read through everything, it looks pretty sound, and it looks like it looks well written. But I'm wondering if we can just table this through our budget time and get some opinions from, especially like having a lawyer here, and just give us a little bit more time with there's some residents that are fiduciaries, and I would just like some more public opinion. If we could table it for even at least one meeting.
Any further discussion?
Public opinion is not a bad thing. Taking this would take us, would eliminate the options that we're trying to be able to exercise.
Well, I think the options would still be available. It's not like there's any investment that needs to be rushed for an investment. Most of the time when you even make an investment, you usually have 30 days.
Well, I think we need a professional association. We need advice, and there's nothing wrong with getting advice.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if there's nothing here that's really controversial, there's nothing, this is pretty common sense stuff. I mean, I don't think we need a lot of guidance on this. I mean, I've read through it, it's very, very clear. It's not committing us to anything. If we pass it now, then we can begin pursuing some advice earlier. This doesn't, I don't see any reason to delay it.
Danny?
That's all I think. I understand we just got this, but like Steve said, it's pretty straightforward. I don't really have a problem with anything I read in here. And like you, when I first heard this, I said, oh, what are we talking about? And then I read it, and it makes pretty good sense.
Well, the way I read it, it's just giving him the latitude to go look. It's not making any commitments, it's just, let's look at what our other options are, what options could be by going to an advisor. It doesn't put us in any way, shape, or form, it's gotta come back to us again, and it's gotta come back with a proposal. And we realize when it does come back, if it was that we were going to an advisor, that's gonna cost us something, because he's not gonna work for free. So it's gotta be somebody that can make us the money, give us the safety that we need. And I don't see any reason in not being able to investigate into it.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay. All right, we'll go, Vice Chair Steve Ribbett,
Aye.
Grant Paul,
Aye.
Laura Mahoney,
Nay.
Dick Corn,
Aye.
Danny White.
All right.
All right, thank you. on to discussion items, State Road 514 widening. The last meeting, I had a draft resolution that had bullets in it, and you guys had homework to see if you could come up with more bullets or any other ideas. So that's why it's back on the agenda tonight. If you don't have anything, we can put it on. We'll put it on the next agenda until we get work, until I get into it. You just got it today, right?
I sent it on last Friday, as you asked for it from 2 Fridays ago. So you got it 2 Fridays, you were supposed to get it 2 Fridays ago. I sent it.
No, this is not mailboat, this is State Road 514.
I stated mailboat in the subject line of one, and I stated 514 in the subject line of the other. I sent it to our clerk, and I said very clearly that in the subject line, and it got sent out in our mailboat section today.
Mailboat's coming up, we're talking about 514.
514 I sent out 2 Fridays ago. I sent it in the subject line that it was for 514. Did you want me to send it to all of you?
It's not here.
It came out mail. You asked for it by Friday.
All right, perfect. All right. So if you go down, so my hope 514 connection with Malabar would be 3 steps, possibly broken down even more. You have a statement that says safety money used for turn lanes while we improve Weber and Corey Road at the intersection. So right here you got safety money used for turn lanes. Okay.
That's
So I'm gonna
already
bring
been
this- I'm going to
approved,
bring this
yes.
subject up into the mailboat, what your input is for the mailboat. So I'd like you to explain what safety money is used for the turn lanes.
Georgiana
Turn lanes.
at the TPO said that, that the studies that showed the need for improving the Weber and Corey intersections, that instead of having to wait 30 years out, that there was safety money available that could be used to improve 514, and it would cost the town nothing, and there would be a center lane. We all got this information.
No center lane.
It was a center lane.
Excuse me, but it says turn lanes, and the turn lane is a lane off to the right of the so you can turn right, or you can turn left. But
No,
it's never a middle road.
It's a middle lane that some people call it a suicide lane, and it's a lane that you get into
Nothing
to turn
extra
left.
stone on
Excuse me?
that. There's nothing extra stone on that. The only thing that they are convinced that they want to do first is the right turn lanes of the turn.
Right, exactly. That's
I
the
disagree with those,
misinformation
but I
right
think
there.
I'm the only one that does. I
With-
can see those
I-
causing
On
accidents.
Corey and Weber? Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
Well,
Well-
on Albemarle Road turning onto Corey and Weber, not. We are asking for turn lanes on Corey and Weber
On
onto
Corey and
Albemarle Road.
Correct.
The state is talking about turn lanes on Albemarle Road onto Corey.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about, is that's what the safety money that we were told that was available, that we could have, and they actually
If you counter
already
the safety,
put,
if you've ever driven those, you don't live on Weber or Corey. You don't try to get off of Weber or Corey on Malabar roads. But if I'm gonna make a right turn, and somebody's coming down, and they're gonna make a right turn onto Weber Road, they're eastbound? Oh, okay, they're making a turn, I can turn out? Because the next car's gonna come right by, whack, I'm gone. I'm dead.
That
that's,
guy's
Right there.
that's already,
And
that's,
Go ahead.
Okay.
that's already happening. So by putting all of those studies that they did down at the hospital, they said that that would lessen, and the money was available now. And so they already stated that. But I think, are
I
we,
think I'm gonna let Doug talk.
Okay.
I gotta set this straight with you, because I think you're totally off base on this.
well, I called the
I did,
TPO.
I did.
Okay.
I'm gonna let Doug know, and I'm gonna.
Okay. First, the town is currently working on preparing a request for grant money to provide an additional lane at Weber and an additional lane at Corey for people traveling towards the north to be able to make a right turn so that we're not having traffic back up there while people are waiting to. So that's in process. Secondly, I've heard the term safety money for probably since the first of the year, and I'm all about that. Let's see where it is. But is there a specific agency, or is it just a generic term, or who has this money?
Right, that's my question to you, Laura.
Lisa
Who has this
Hickman.
money?
Lisa Hickman of the TPO is the one that I called.
Lisa Hickman.
She's the secretary. She's the secretary. Yeah.
Is
And
it-
she explained that there was already safety money. I brought it up whenever we've had Atkins Engineering come up, and they've all affirmed that there was this safety money. I don't know if our last resolution.
been funded, period.
Well,
As a secretary,
who she's talking to, what she says.
okay.
All right, so I'm going to talk to you about the middle lane. What you're implying is that there's a middle lane at the intersection of Corey Road and a middle lane at the intersection of Weber Road.
Yes.
Okay, that is on the table for 30 years out, but that has nothing to do with the safety monies that you're talking about. The safety monies that I call on, and what I've heard for a year is it's right turn lanes onto Malabar Road. That is it, on Weber and Corey.
I was
That's the
told,
safety money.
okay, I was told that safety money could only be used from 514, not for our, because aren't we responsible for Weber and Corey?
We've applied that.
That is true, but this is part of the widening project. They can do the right turn lanes now.
Okay,
But now
well,
they're talking about roundabouts, but,
That's the latest.
right. So, okay, so that's one of
so
the
we've
things I wanted to
gotten
bring
rid
up.
of, we just lost that middle turn lane
Yeah.
at 514. We lost it.
As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I've seen,
Well, then we
what I was
blew it.
told.
So we blew it, I guess, because,
Well, I called my guy, and he said he's never heard of safety money. And so I'm going to call Lisa Hickman tomorrow morning, and I'm going to find out about your safety money.
and
Well,
you
that's
can tell
done.
her that I talked to
No,
her.
you call her.
I talked to her in 2016, and I talked to her February, March of 2017.
Okay. March of
2000.
2017.
2000. Okay. And just to make sure the record is clear, there are two different projects on 514.
Correct.
One is for the left turn lane at Weber and the left turn lane at Corey.
Left turn? Right turn. Right turn.
Left turn coming off of Malabar onto Corey.
Which would involve the center lane, correct?
No, you're talking about right turns.
Hold on. Doug said left, so let's
Yeah.
figure out what he said.
My understanding is that there's two projects. One is for and this was originally funded or proposed for 2019 on State Road 514, Malabar Road, at the intersection of Corey and 514. There would be a center left turn lane. And the same thing at Weber. Now, my further understanding is that that project did not include right-hand turn lanes coming off of Weber onto 514 and coming off of Corey onto 514.
That's always.
We're currently applying, we're putting together a grant package, whether this is safety money or not, I don't know, to try and get that paid for first. Because at the time this 2019 project was discussed, we were told that there was no right turn lanes coming off of Weber or Corey. There was only the left-hand turn. And in fact, we were told that they were not going to put stoplights there. And we've sent a petition to the FDOT requesting stoplights because both the sheriff's office and the state patrol says if there are not stoplights where those left turn lanes are accident incidents will go up because of the nature As I think one of the council members, somebody's sitting in that lane, they don't see the car coming up around them, you'll pull out and they get smacked in the side. There's another project that includes the widening of Malabar in various iterations that's scheduled, not permitted, for 2045.
Right.
So that's an entirely different
All right, well,
project.
let's get someone at FDOT to verify what you just said as legal evidence. I hear difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I've talked to several people around the state, the office most responsible for what's going to be done here is the land office. Steve Olson up there understands us better than anybody else in that office. He doesn't have the authority to do anything but say nice things to us. But I questioned why they wanted a 20 to 22 foot grass median between the eastbound and westbound lanes, and that's so they'll have the property available in case they will want a 6-lane Malabar Road. And that's why they're putting such a wide thing from Babcock Street to Corey Road. Then I asked him, I said, from Corey to Marie Street, you're wanting to get down to 2 lanes, drop from humongous to next to nothing. I said, do you realize that there are 2 parks, 2 churches, a fire station, and the only egress from the Country Cove subdivision, all coming into that area? And they said, no, we didn't know that. They hadn't even looked at that. And that's true. And what I'm getting from them is that the funding for the major thing, they've moved this 514 to the bottom of their list for South Brevard. And they won't even approach funding until 2025. Which would put the beginning of the work in 2030.
All right, so let's get to our bullets for the resolution.
Well, we need to come up with a specific statement of what do we want in detail.
Well, that's
Not what they told us we want,
Well,
what we want.
this is what the town of Malabar wants. That's the purpose of the resolution.
Yes.
Because
Not what they-
the directors at
they
the
written for
FDOT that I talked to said, Malabar keeps changing their tune, please give me something in writing. And that's what I'm doing. I'll move on to.
Okay, I look at what was written here, the main improvement we can get, both for the ability of people in town to get out on the Malabar Road as well as for safety, is traffic lights at Corey and at Weber.
Yes.
I would be happy with that. Everything else to me is tertiary concern.
I'd like to see a light at our firehouse, an emergency light at the firehouse.
Anything else?
The chief is looking into a grant package to put a flashing caution light at the firehouse right now. And actually, we did have a grant awarded, I believe, in the early 2000s, and for some reason those funds were never used. And we don't know where the money went. I think it was just never applied for, even though we were awarded the grant.
What was that for the fire station?
Yes,
Okay.
we just need a red light we can stop traffic.
The then town administrator said it would cost the town $70,000 to put that up. I think that's a ridiculous number.
I did ask at the meeting a long time ago, so you guys can ask for the TPO thing, but I was told that when they make a 4-lane, they always put a median. It's part of the rules that they have, that they follow. They put that median in the
Look at all the
center.
other east-west
I know, but
thoroughfares
that's,
in the county, there's nobody's got 22 feet.
right, so it might be a new rule that they have to follow or whatever, I don't know.
No,
But
it's just somebody's nonsense.
I asked about it. And the other thing is, I had put in my email, the resolution, the way the resolution was stated, if we always kind of agree with them to some extent that they're going to be building, like the last resolution, if we kind of just stick with their support the developmental planning for the sectional widening and improvement of 514 Malabar Road from the western boundaries of the town to the Quarry Road intersection, then proceeding with a 2-lane improvement plan to Murray Street, and then proceeding to US 1, State Road with the 3-lane improvement. I mean, I'm just overstating, but that since that's basically what they keep stating, if we just keep agreeing with them on the resolution, that would be hopefully be helpful. Whenever we add new ideas, then we're always kind of hurting ourselves a little bit. But the 4-laning, when you asked us to think of what the residents would be more beneficial, I can't wrap my head around a 4-lane being better to come out from Weber and Corey. It seems like that would not be better. So,
What 4-lane are you talking about?
4-laning Malabar Road.
Well,
With that-
It's on Malabar Road, it has nothing to do with coming out from.
Right, so if we really think
about.
just about what we want for Malabar,
I'm gonna tell you the way I look at this, and as long as I sit on this council, I doubt if I will change. Because my mind is pretty well made up, unless they can convince me that I'm wrong. They have come up with what they have said is our ideas. And they're ridiculous ideas, like the 2 lanes from Quarry to Marie Street. But as long as we don't agree with them, then they don't have to do anything. And I think they are building in our reluctance to approve so that they don't have to do anything. They can just continue to make noise because they have not yet listened to anything we have said, period, when they've been at these meetings or when they've read our documents. They don't want to agree with us because if they agree with us, then they'll have to do something.
Okay. First, I'd like to say that I would agree with Councilman Rivet's comment that the most important thing would be to put stoplights at Corey and Weber so that you can make a safe left-hand turn there. Secondly, I would ask the chief to confirm this, that when our fire department responds to incidents on Weber or on State Road 514, I would venture to say, and he can confirm this, that they're usually at the intersections of Corey and Weber and
Absolutely.
514.
Absolutely.
And plus the odd people going down Gladder Road.
Streetlights will definitely control 514, when I-95 was there also.
For the long term, and I don't know if we're addressing the short term or the long term, the only thing that makes sense is to go down Gladder to US 1 and let them figure out how to do it, let them figure out how to deal with the railroad. It isn't our problem. There was a railroad there, and that makes all the sense in the world to have your eastbound lane go down Gladder, the westbound lane come down the existing Malabar Road. You can take 2 lanes and groove them into a really nice road as a one-way and a one-way feeding into a 4-lane road. And that, I think we ought to keep harping on it with it, because if it doesn't happen, it'll never happen.
And that immediately makes this triangle in here consistent with some of the other towns up and down the east coast of Florida, and it becomes more valuable as commercial property.
And that's the reason it was done in these small towns. It's the same thing. You don't want to take, you've got a small town with a small business district. If you 4-lane it, you're going to take the whole business district out because you can't get 4 lanes passed through here without taking everything out. And it makes all the sense in the world to do a 2-lane and a 2-lane.
Right, Highway 50 west through Groveland and Mesquite, and you'll see exactly the same thing right there. Laura?
and I wasn't going to talk about that, but I totally agree with that, but we've never suggested that. We've never suggested that, but it makes it makes complete sense. I just want to, though, on the safety, on the traffic lights, you can ask Lisa Hickman too on this, because I was asking for that. And she said that traffic lights, just like stop signs, don't automatically make intersections safer. Which, well, we can see at the stop signs that doesn't necessarily make Weber Road safer. We probably need some patrols with it. So that is why they suggested that lane in the center as their solution. That's just, they're professionals, and that's what the professionals suggested. We will, I believe, have to pay for the traffic lights too.
I believe that that's correct. We will
we will, if we don't have to pay for them, I think we'll have to pay the maintenance on it, right?
I would start out with the turn lanes, and this is on us, is paying for the turn lanes from Corey and from Weber, that we would pay for those. And if there's any safety money or any monies, grants or anything for that, I think that 3 lanes on Weber and Corey at the intersection would help a lot.
Okay, if we're talking long-term, let's put all of these ideas in here. I mean, again, I still think that you know, the traffic lights at Corey and Weber, I think that dwarfs everything else. But we're talking about a long-term plan, you know, Grant, or the idea of splitting, you know, Malabar Road into, you know, taking the eastbound long ladder. I don't have an issue with that. I think that's probably a good idea. You know, turn lanes, let's put that all in. Let's put that. I mean, I don't think there's any violent opposition to any of these. I think the only thing we're really disagreeing on is the priority.
Right.
All I got, Dan is in the.
Okay.
Okay. Our basic problem is the state only cares about expediting traffic in 514. They have no concern about our concern for our residents getting into the traffic flow of 514. Okay, and that's a fact. And I'm with you. We need traffic lights at Weber and at Corey. Okay. Now, I also can see where if you put the traffic lights in and the turn lane, it can be a problem. My son lives off of Fallon, and my wife and I were going there yesterday, and every time we go to turn left off of Babcock onto Fallon to get to Jimmy's house, you can always see a big pile of broken glass. Okay? It is there always. And so obviously, even though there's a traffic light there, there's a problem because there's not a dedicated turn arrow. Okay? So somebody gets hit there. I'd have to say regularly, unless they only sweep it up once a year, you know. So I would say, okay, it's great for long term. I like this idea about ladder. It just makes perfect sense, and it reminds me now we've been through some towns here where you see that separation, you know, and it makes perfect sense. But I think that what we want to tell the state is our immediate requirements. And for that, I agree with Steve, that it is a traffic light. And for God's sakes, I mean, the whole holdup on everything else is land acquisition, engineering, all of that stuff. None of that is required in any long-term setup for a traffic light. I mean, they could really put one in next week if they wanted to.
I have Doug.
Okay. Actually, the idea of using the ladder as a one-way road in one direction has been discussed with FDOT and with both of their engineering firms that are involved with the State Road 514. And that's been discussed for probably well over a year. And there's not been much excitement on the part of the engineering firms about that solution. But I do believe, as is apparently counsel, that this would be a good long-term solution for our town and help develop a better tax base through commercial entities and bring tourists into our town as well.
There are businesses on ladder that could form a basis for a business district.
I just wanted to include what I also added, and I'm trying to think, I'm glad Drew's here. This was something that I talked to when the meeting at Grant Valkyria, and here was it Georgiette that was there?
Georgiana.
Yeah, Georgiana. That's the person I talked to about this. For long term, not the immediate. The multimodal, to have a multimodal east side of 514, pedestrians, strollers, bicycles, golf carts, plus be built sturdy enough for the fire truck. for emergency vehicles such as a fire truck. This may start from Marie Street to the fire department, but ultimately go all the way to the hospital. I think that would service the people of Malabar and the trail community, and it would also provide a safety road to get to Corey and Weber for the fire truck. And that would be, I think that would make more sense than sidewalks on both sides of Malabar Road too. I think it would just make it so that we're thinking of our trail community, and that would be more for the purpose of Malabar. And yeah, the other thing, a crosswalk at Marie Street also for the trailhead. So those are just my other thoughts.
In support of what she was saying, the last meeting I mentioned, we need wide enough shoulders to support vehicles, not only for transport for fire engines, but in an emergency case where someone has to pull off the road, or if a law enforcement officer has to pull somebody over off the road, there is someplace for them to go. Right now, there is not, in this handicap, any enforcement, law enforcement on the highway. So the sheriff's department, the deputies who work this area would love to see shoulders on both sides of that road, eastbound and westbound. Wide enough to support vehicles, which, like you were saying, I hadn't thought about supporting a fire truck to get by the traffic, but it makes a lot of sense, yes.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, what we'll do is continue it on our next meeting, and we need to populate the resolution. So did everyone get a word copy of it? Yeah, okay, so you can bring in your example of what you want added. Okay, so we need it in 2 Wednesdays so that we can have it in the packet, discuss it. All right, thank you. All right, now we're going to move down to mail vote inputs. I was asked to review the mail vote inputs, and I'm going to read a statement that Phil Cruz wrote back in 2002, which is 100%, I believe, correct. Thank you. Someone wanted to write something into the mail vote, okay, our Malabar Town's mail vote. Thank you for your interest in writing an article for the Malabar Mail Vote newsletter. The newsletter is an official publication of the town of Malabar. As such, all information represents the position of the town or one of its employees. At this time, we have not decided to open space in a newsletter for guest columns or editorial comment. So, if the council wants to put an input in, it has to be the voice of the council in the town or the employee. So you can't be putting opinions into the mail vote. That's the way I look. So what I want to do first is ask if that's, we got to establish a rule, because I'm going to bring up the inputs in a minute. So do I get a consensus that it should be no opinions? It should be the consensus of what's been voted on by council, even though you voted against it. Then you can't say not in an official Malabar mail vote. So do I get a consensus that is correct?
Well, the last one included an article written by Hans Kemmler, which was more opinion than action of the council. And that article would not have been in there if this were the case.
Right.
I disagree with the idea.
What? Yes.
I'm sorry, I appreciate being recognized from the audience.
Please come to the bench. That way we can get you on the record.
I appreciate being on the record. I feel like I exist. That's good. No, basically just the idea that the town is extremely dependent on voluntary people. And if you exclude voluntary people from committee input, you may want to limit it to where it's not opinion. But if it's a factual thing that the TC has the ability to review and approve, I think you may want, if you're about to make a rule, do also can include the ability for voluntary committee recognized people, because they've already been vetted by the council to have a standing or
right. We have that. P&Z usually gives an input. You guys do. Some different committees do. But it has to. What I'm trying to get the point across, it has to be the view of the town. It can't be personal opinions. You know, that's what.
Yeah, no argument, but.
Because that's the, people that are reading it are thinking that this is the way I'm supposed to, this is how the town thinks, so that's what I'm trying to help. But you're correct.
Yeah, that's great. I was just, what I was hearing was you were eliminating by how you were talking, it sounded like you were.
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I agree personal opinions should be eliminated.
That way.
I agree personal opinions should be eliminated. I didn't think that mine was a personal opinion.
Well,
You
I
took
did.
that and then Doug supported what I said about that.
I agree,
So.
I agree.
Maybe we ought to have an editorial page which includes some of our answers.
No.
There's something going on that we don't know about.
So, okay, so what I want to do is bring up Laura's, well, Dick's first, is first comes
That's
up.
personal opinion.
Well, it is. Then what comes after, however, is, you know, all that is personal opinion. So I would like you to rewrite your article. Okay, then it will not be, it will not go into the mailbook.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
You wanted something from me, and that's a fact, and it's been on the internet for 2 years.
I understand, but the mailbox ain't supposed to cause controversy, right? So this, that's what I'm trying to
I
stop.
disagree with you completely.
Well, we
Cause
just all
people in this
voted.
town to think about what's going on in this
No,
town.
I agree. I agree with your principle, but as Mayor Cruz said, if you wish to opinion, I would suggest sending a letter to the editor of one of the newspapers circulating in the local area.
How many years ago was that?
2002. So you could put it on, you could put it on
16 years
Malabar
ago.
Matters or
We haven't
whatever.
grown in 16 years.
Okay, so I'm not gonna allow that, okay?
Fine with me. I didn't think you had that authority, but.
All right,
what you want.
well, it's opinion. Okay, now Laura's, what I had, my question was, is there is a safety money to put a middle turn lane in Malabar Road at the intersection. So my point was, I didn't see that as the council's voted or has anything to do with the middle lane, but I understand your position. I'm okay with it now, okay, based on what I've heard. So, but the next step, in addition, I believe we should improve our own town. So you can't, I don't know about, I don't know, this one is.
I'm fine with your opinion. I can change it.
Okay.
And I also do want it backed and verified, obviously,
Okay.
because I was under the impression that that 2019, that money was available, and I just thought we should back that so that we get, like, to say, oh, we want a roundabout and lose money that we could have for free. I would hate to do that.
Right.
I don't know what one you're talking about.
Well,
That's what we're gonna find
Doug's
out.
gonna look into it.
That's why I put an X by it, because I have not heard of any safety
I
money.
never, I,
I got a video
well,
on
somebody
Okay.
she's talked to has, I'm sure used that term.
Well, I talked to directors at that meeting, and they didn't know anything what I was talking about. So that's where my middle name's Tom, so I doubt that this money existed. So. All right, because it's proven otherwise. All right, so that was my mailboat input. And so I appreciate everyone's inputs that have done. Right, any further discussion?
Well, I actually had a little opinion about our fire department, if you didn't mind. Is it
That was
okay?
very minor.
Oh, you know, I do think you should probably, but the one thing about the fire department is that I think that we need to open up to allow other opinions. I just think that we can't just say only it needs to go sky high because it's perfect, you know? I mean, we just need to leave open for me to approve and get behind it. I just really think
Brings
that
everybody home.
other people should have, that it shouldn't be just one opinion.
I don't think it is.
I disagree with you for this reason, all three.
Well, okay, has council read Dick Corn's input?
Yes.
Would they want that in the newsletter?
No.
I think that is opinion.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I see 4-1. Okay. All right, we'll move on.
Don't base the whole decision on the mailboat on me.
No, I
No, no,
agree.
no, no.
I agree with even mine.
Okay, you'll-
Restructure it,
okay.
yeah. Well, and I'll wait until that
Okay.
comes out
All
with,
right.
yeah.
right, we have no public cards, so I'll move on to reports. Laura?
Well, I thought that when you asked for approval of the agenda, it was the agenda, additions and deletions. I didn't realize that we approved the minutes. So I had given...
We had a separate motion for that.
I missed it. So I had given my District 2 report to everybody from last month, and I just wanted to look at it, and I just felt like nothing from what I stated was in the minutes, and the minutes are still, I think that they should be abbreviated and opinionless, is what I thought that we'd all voted on and agreed to having. So I feel that, well, I just know that there was nothing about Public Works, and it was a discussion, and there was nothing about it in the minutes. So for my report, I still would like Public Record, or the Public Works to have records be kept for communication with the public. And I would like to have evaluations of their work, or some sort of input, a report. I like that we have reports from our fire department, our sheriff department. I like that there's reports from our town administrator and our clerk. I believe that Public Works needs to have a report. So I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, Public Works made the first report at the last council meeting. He's on vacation today, and he will be at the next council meeting with a report. And this is the first time that he's done this in years and years, so obviously it's going to be refined as we go forward. And it's anticipated that he'd come not to every council meeting.
It comes to the first
council meeting of every month, and we'll continue to do so. And we can help him by letting him know what you actually want. And I don't know that we need to give every turn of the screw or every shovel load of dirt, but I think he should, and I tend to agree with you, give an overview of what's been accomplished.
I appreciate that, because I've been asking for this for a year and a half. But the sheet that you provided was it a month ago? Is that what's going to be the standard sheet?
I don't know that it's a standard, but it was an outline for him to work towards.
Great, that's good. Also, on the Matt, if I asked for the registry, and the registry came with all of the whole list on one sheet. Yeah, can they be put on individual sheets so that you could pull out one sheet to show somebody? You know, like in a...
Not totally certain on which.
Well, for the registry, it's like one long, like a whole bunch of papers, and you can't separate them to send them out individually. Like my district report is this, and if I could click on it, it's easier to, somebody wants to know about Public Works. Oh, it's just one sheet. It's not 10 sheets of like the last file for the agenda was so big it couldn't be put up on the town site until it was split into two. It's just easier to handle and to give people accountability with a more simpler, just a small, oh, here's my district report. Obviously, I have my own district report, so I can handle that, but if Danny has a district report and I have to shovel through and I have to say, okay, it's the 8th page down, it would be just a little easier if it was inputted one sheet at a time into a folder or something.
I mean, you're talking about the agenda packet?
Yeah. But not the agenda packet. The agenda packet doesn't have to be done that way, just the registry. Today there's nobody, I don't think there's any, unless you count this, but it's already in the last one, so.
Are you talking about the add-ins?
The add-ins, thank you, yes.
I will look into what we can do.
Okay. Thank you.
Promises it right here.
All right, thank you.
That's it. Steve?
Okay, just a couple of things. You know, Mr. Moore, nice to meet you, thanks for coming. However, I think what happened here was a violation of our procedures.
I agree.
You know, we have a
3 minutes.
rule, well, it's not just 3 minutes, it's a rule against campaigning, you know, in a council meeting. I think it's appropriate to introduce yourself, you know, but that's kind of about as far as it's appropriate to take it. In a council meeting, we specifically don't want the council meetings to turn into a platform for candidates to campaign for office, because we will have 8, 10, 12-hour meetings if that happens. And again, nothing against you, Mr. Moore. It's just, you know, that's our policy. We should either enforce it or change the policy. Okay. The other thing is, you know, Corey and Weber continues to be a problem. The traffic, you know, people going through stop signs. You know, a couple of days ago, I, you know, kind of caught myself, oh geez, I'm going almost 45, and I slowed down and the car blew past me at least 20 miles an hour quicker. So we need some enforcement on that road. So, you know, Doug, if you could formally request that.
I can do that.
That's all.
Corey and Weber.
Right.
I do see traffic periodically setting up at Hall and Weber, or, Hall and Weber, but it's been a while since I've seen them there.
Yeah, I mean, about a week ago on a Friday morning, I was leaving early, about 7:30, and I